everybody, I thought it'd be kind of fun to share something that I did back in the mid 80s. I actually was a projectionist at a movie theater, and this is me. And you can see in this theater, this was Cinema 2. We had two projectors, and these reels weighed about 50 pounds. But the film width on the reels is about 35 millimeters. In fact, it's exactly 35 millimeters. And there was a big hot lamp in here, and the light used to pass through the film as it was moving, and then we had these little windows, and it would be projected on the screen. And over here you can see there were a bunch of little buttons and switches that we had to navigate. And you might wonder, what is all that? Well, did you know that movies come in two different formats? There's something called Cinemascope, and there's something called flat. And if you watch the video that I assigned to you, then you know that Cinemascope is a 2.333 to 1 ratio. Now, if I was a projectionist, one of the things that we had at Mohawk Malls, we had these nice curtains on the side. Not every theater has that. But the reason that they're there is because how you set the curtain will depend on which type of movie you have. Is it one that's in Cinemascope, which is a wider one, or is it one of the flat ones? Now, this is an actual, we actually had Lady and the Tramp at Mohawk Mall, and it broke, and I had to splice it back in. But I actually took a picture so you could see what the film looks like as it goes through the projector. And you can see here that I just recreated this. Now, do you see in this particular case how the curtain is just a little bit too wide? Because your option, if you blew it up a little bit, see, the problem is you don't want to miss part of the film. So what you do is you just bring the curtains in a little bit so you don't have that ugliness on the screen. Now, if you have Cinemascope, do you see how the screens need to, the curtains rather, need to be reset? So you would put the right lens on. We had different lenses for a flat movie versus a Cinemascope movie. But you see, we would have to open up those curtains. So see, same thing here. See how if you have a Cinemascope movie, you would want to open up the curtains all the way versus a flat movie where you have the curtains kind of closed because the dimensions are different. Now, what's interesting, a lot of people don't know this, but if you were to look at the actual film as it goes through the projector, it actually has a distorted look to it because it still has, the film is still 35 millimeters in width, and it's still, the same height and width as the regular flat screen. But to give it that extra width that you see on the screen that doesn't have the same ratio, they have to kind of scrunch the image and use the lens to stretch it out, which is kind of an interesting thing. Now, that also explains why on the old analog TVs, Cinemascope it wasn't the same ratio. So what do you often see? What you see, and this is common even on the HD TVs that have a different aspect ratio. On the old-fashioned analog TVs, which had that 4:3 ratio, if it was a Cinemascope movie and they were broadcasting it over the air, you would often see these black bars because otherwise you'd miss. Sometimes what they do is they'd zoom in and you would basically cut off the edges here, and you would only see like this part of it if they zoomed in on that. And the filmmakers don't want you to miss, this side of the movie and this side of the movie. So that's why you'll often see those black bars. Now, on the modern television sets, which have that 16:9 ratio, usually what will happen if you have a television show that was broadcast before HD TVs came out, which I think they came out in 1998, the ratio doesn't match your television set. So, again, if you're watching an older television program on a modern television, since the ratios do not match, you'll see the black bars on the side. So kind of an interesting little look at the different ratios. In the video, we learned that, and let's see if I can find the right one. Most of your modern devices, cell phones, smaller like tablets and television sets, and even your larger screen TVs, they all have that same ratio, which this gentleman explained quite nicely in the video. So just a little fun fact for you for today.